Hey, hey, hey. Happy, what's today? Tuesday? Today is Tuesday, October 14th. And I wanted to come on a quick live. Just wanted to come for a little bit. So I'm not someone who follows the news. I definitely need to do better. But I know that in church the other day, they talked about the captives that were the hostages that were held captive for like 2 years. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being held captive for 2 years? 2 years of your life. Okay, so Israeli hostages and Palestinian detainees. So President Donald Trump and Gaza ceasefire mediators signed a deal after Hamas freed all living hostages. So this is all over the headlines. This is all the talk. This is all the rage about how the people have that were being held captive have been set free. And I prayed on Sunday. I prayed that they would keep up with what they said and actually free the hostages. But more importantly, when we look at certain situations, we have to ask ourselves, how does it relate to us? And looking at this headline reminded me of a story. So one time I had a concert, and at the concert, one time I had a concert, and the guest speaker at the concert gave a perfect analogy. I had a love and liberation celebration, and during the celebration, the guest speaker, which was a pastor, he spoke about how oftentimes we can be free, but because of things that are going on in our mindset, we're held captive. So I wanted to come on today and just briefly ask you, like, what is it that is blocking your blessings? What is it that is keeping you from living your next level life? And are you truly living free? Because during the concert, the pastor gave an analogy. He said, imagine people allowing the enemy to keep them captive for so long that, imagine like birds in a cage, right? And the birds, they forget how to fly. They forget that they even have wings. They forget everything, and literally they're just sitting there. The cage is open. They could be free, but they're not walking out their freedom. So there's certain things in our lives that we say, yes, we want to do this. Yes, we're going to go back to school. Yes, we're going to write a book. As a success coach, I talk to people all the time that say, you know what, I'm going to write a book. And year after year after year, oh, I didn't get around to it yet. Oh, I'm still writing notes. Oh, I'm not ready yet. But I believe that if God is putting something on our heart, we can hold it in our hand. And when is it going to ever be a perfect time? There's never going to be a perfect time. So when I keep seeing the headlines about the hostages being held captive for 2 years, and can you imagine how these people were feeling, praying every single day, imagining like what it would be like to come out of this thing alive on the other side? It reminded me of a time when I was going through a divorce and I was feeling overwhelmed and feeling like, will I ever recognize the person in the mirror? Will I ever feel like myself again? Will I ever be able to lift my head up high and not feel shame and feel defeat? But I had to walk out my freedom. I had to say that the best days are ahead of me, that I forget the loss, but I remember the lesson. So I want us to ask ourselves, are we free? We are on our hello, Caleb. And Marty says we are our own worst enemies at times. Yes, we are. We are our biggest critic and our worst enemy, because there's something that someone said. I don't know if I read it on social media, but it's basically saying that the enemy outside can't penetrate if there isn't an enemy within. So a lot of times the enemy will use things that we are feeling discouraged about. We'll use the areas of our life where we lack confidence, and he will try to beat us up and make us feel defeated. And yet we're like, yeah, they're confirming it. Yeah, it must be true. But no, no, like we have to walk out our freedom. And I remember becoming a mom and feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm not a good mom. Like, can I actually do this? And I was just like feeling so defeated. And I had to ask myself, like, what does walking out my freedom, being a mom, look like? Right. And it's taking those it's something easy that we can all do in whatever area you are feeling like you're feeling defeated, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling like you're not walking free. Just write down all the lies that the enemy is telling you. Write down all the negative things that you are saying to yourself, and you got to catch yourself. Like, I don't even like to declare that I'm sick. I don't like people telling my kid, like, if my children have a runny nose, they have a runny nose. I told my daughter this morning, I had like a pep talk with her, because my oldest, she's 6, and she was like, I forgot what she said. I don't know if I sneezed, and she was like, oh, you're sick. I said, no, I sneezed. Like, I deal with the symptoms and I overcome that. Because I said, we say we're sick, what happens next? If we say that we're sick, we're just going to lay there and be like, I'm sick? No. You have a headache? What do you need? Do you need to drink some water? Are you dehydrated? Do you need to take some Tylenol? Do you need a nap? Like, what is walking out that freedom? What does that look like? So ask yourself this question: am I living like someone that is free? Because oftentimes we say that we're free, but we truly aren't. Because if we were walking out that freedom, maybe we would say, what's the best case scenario? I remember purchasing a real estate. I remember watching HGTV and always seeing the people, transform the houses. And I felt like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like, I like the transformation process. I like when they're taking something that's ugly and they're making it pretty. And, back in like 2008, I started investing in real estate, and I didn't know what I was doing. I should have, maybe hired a coach or a mentor, did some more research. But I told my mom that even if it doesn't work, at least I tried. So yes, I purchased the property. I purchased the property too much, spent too much in renovations, didn't really have somebody in my corner to help me out. So of course these contractors were charging me too much money, and ultimately I lost the property to foreclosure. But okay, the rich people file bankruptcy. The rich people have to bounce back. Like, if you have never had to bounce back from anything, then are you truly living? So the question of today is, are you living out your freedom? These hostages, these people that were held captive for 2 years are finally free. But there are people, we are people. I'm guilty. Like, I sit here and I have like journals and notebooks full of ideas of things that I want to do. And I'm like, you know what? Like, let me just wait. What if? And staying in my mind is not carrying out the ideas. And I believe it's Les Brown, that says that the graveyard is full of good ideas. The graveyard is full of great ideas because people passed away with their gifts and with their greatness. And I remember a time when I was dealing with COVID. I'm telling you all my business today. I'm telling you all my business. I don't even know who's on this YouTube live, and I'm telling you all my business. But listen, I remember dealing with COVID, sick at home for 3 months in 2020, scrolling social media, seeing RIPs, people that passed away, people that were in a hospital sick, and like literally I'm home dealing with this illness, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like what would my family? I remember, calling my sister and saying, if something happens to me, like take my journals, take all the words of wisdom that I wrote down, and put it in a book. Don't let don't let those words that God gave me die with me. Like, that's how bad I thought the situation was. But thank God, I told God, like, I said a prayer one night, because I literally used to have to sleep sitting up because I was afraid that if I laid down, that I might not wake up. I was afraid that if I laid down, I might not wake up. So I literally had to tell myself, you know what? I said, God, if I make it out of this, I was dealing with COVID. I said, God, if I make it out of this situation, I'm going to live full and die empty. So some people did not wake up this morning and they can't go after their goals. Some people are laid up in a hospital bed. They can't go after their goals. But as a people, we have to walk out our freedom. I am going to be creating some videos. I don't know. I was listening to the radio the other day. No, I don't know. I do know. I was listening to the radio the other day, and I don't know how it came across this station that I never even listened to. So I'm going to say it was Divine Intervention. And the speaker, the pastor, was talking about walking out your faith. We can talk about faith. We can talk about freedom. But part of freedom, and I think it's basically connected, because you can have that faith talk and you have a faith walk. So I literally went to Walmart this morning and bought 3 composition notebooks. I'm going to be doing videos. Like, this is something that you can do too. So I like to write down my goals and my dreams and things that, God puts on my heart. So I bought 3 journals. One I'm going to give to my daughter, so my oldest, so that she can start writing it out too, because I know she's going to ask me about hers. But one is going to be for my dreams and goals, like a bucket list, and the other one is going to be for prayers. And the guy on the radio, 89.7 or something, I think the station was, he talked about writing down your prayer request and putting a date next to it. And then when God answers those prayers, then, putting a line through it or putting a check mark. Because oftentimes we pray for things, but then we don't sit there and see the manifestation of it, or we forget the goodness of what God can do. So I didn't mean for this to be a faith talk, but faith and freedom go hand in hand. And I believe that our lives should be full of faith, freedom, and fulfillment, so we can live our life to the fullest, walk out your freedom. I didn't want to come on here for too long. I am completing some assignments, but I definitely wanted to share seeing the news about the hostages being free and realizing that there's so many of us that are living in bondage. There's so many of us that are sitting on our gifts, that there are people less talented than us that are taking action. There are people that are not as good as you that are taking action. Done is better than perfect. We have to get started and we have to learn along the way. And there's really no such thing as perfection, because every time you think something's perfect, there's something else that you can do. So 2 things that I shared on the video. So Scope says, you know what? I'm scared of earthquakes. You know what? Listen, I was scared the other day. There was a lot of rain over here, and that's completely understandable. There was a big storm the other night, and I was like, oh my gosh, what if the power goes out? And I was like so afraid of the weather and, natural disasters. And I was just like, you know what? God is in control. Like, what can I do in this situation? And I had to tell myself, you know what? Let me charge up my phones. Let me make sure that, I keep water in the house and, certain, non-perishable items, so that, something does happen. What am I going to do? And I had to make sure to keep cash on hand, because oftentimes we think that, we're just going to go to the store. I don't know where you guys are located, but you think you're going to go to the store and you're just going to be able to swipe a card. But like, you know how it feels to get out of the car with 2 kids and then get to inside the store, and then the internet is down and you can't purchase anything? Like, that is really, really crazy, really, really annoying. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me keep some cash in the house. Let me keep some cash in my wallet. Keep some cash in the car, because, A lot of things that we make convenient in life, like we don't know. We don't know what tomorrow holds. We can't put all our faith in technology, and we have to be prepared and have a plan. So what did I share? Just a recap before I get off. Talked about the importance of writing down our fears and turning it into faith, and also being able to walk out our freedom. Turn our fears into faith, take the lies that we've been telling ourselves and flip it into a positive statement, and ask ourselves what is the best case scenario, not always looking at what is the worst case scenario, because what if we do accomplish our goals? Like, it's possible. It is definitely possible. So what are some ways that we walk out our freedom? I walk it out, walk it out, walk it out. But no, seriously, so I'm going to get off now. I just want to come on quickly and share, thank God the hostages were let go. They were freed as the people promised. As a people, we have to live out our freedom. What is something that we can do today for a better tomorrow to go after our dreams and goals? Because there's no time like the present, and all we have is today. All we have is this moment. And there is something that we can do. Oftentimes we focus on what's out of our control, and we get stuck in overwhelm, we get stuck in overthinking, and we don't take action. So the truth is, there is something that we can do. And if we can't, then maybe it's something else. Maybe it's something else that we should be focusing on. Maybe there's something else that we don't know. Maybe it's a good idea, but it's not a now idea. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe, because we're going to do some faith. Let me show you. I came on a live. So I went to Walmart because I was listening to a radio station talking about having like a prayer journal. And I like creating things, so that's part of like therapeutic for me. So I found these natural hemp cords. So I'm going to be recording a video of creating like a DIY prayer journal. And I wanted to be able to have multiple journals when I fill up the journal. So I said, let me stick with the basic composition notebook, because this is something that can easily be found. And you see, I already started writing in there. So one journal is going to be for goals, visions, bucket list, and I'm going to have another journal or composition book for prayers, for things that I'm asking, that I'm believing God for the big, the impossible, the things that I think that I cannot accomplish, because I know with God all things are able. So this is me walking out freedom. Oftentimes we act like we're free, we talk like we're free, but our actions are not in alignment with our goals. So that is definitely, I might incorporate the video, and I don't know if I'm going to make it a 2-part video, because I am making a series called Get Your Life Together, or Get My Life Together. What things that I did to create like a holistic approach to goal setting, to growth, to elevation, because oftentimes we focus on one area and then we neglect everything else. We focus on our health, but then our finances crumble, or we focus on our finances, but then our faith crumbles, and we're not doing things that are spiritually in alignment. And I believe that there are more people that make bad decisions than people that have bad luck. So the better decisions that we make, I believe that the better our life can be, and we're prepared. I need to go drink some water. We're prepared for life's uncertainty. So I'm gonna make a video, so stay tuned for the video about creating a DIY prayer and goal journal, because this is therapeutic for me. I'm going to actually use the string and like probably put like a tape or something in the back so that I can hang these cute little, these are cross charms bulk pack. There's wings, there are crosses, there's birds. This is so cute to me. It was $8 at Walmart and I almost left it. I don't know if you can see it, but there's like so many cute little charms in here. Can't really see it. But anyways, I'm gonna make another video talking about the faith journey and walking out faith. So today we have to go from just talking about freedom and actually walking it out and realizing the patterns that are keeping us stuck, that are blocking our blessings, because a lot of like, there are people behind bars, there are people held captive, there are people that are not free, that wish they could be free, and then there's us that are free, and what are we doing with that freedom? So ask yourself that question, or ask God. Maybe that's something you can include in your prayers, like, God, what does it look like for me to be free? What are you, what do you need from me in this season? And to help me to take that next step. Because oftentimes we get comfortable in our calling and we don't want to take the next step. But one time I wrote in my journal that there is a difference between confidence and conviction, right? Sometimes we don't feel confident to do something, but when we have that conviction, when we know that God is calling us to something greater, when we know that this is not where our story ends, when we know that greater comes later, like when you know that there's more you want out of life, you just have to do it scared. You have to do it not knowing everything. You have to do it knowing that, help is on the way. Oftentimes we want to wait for the situation to be perfect before we get started. But the beautiful thing about it is that everything that I've ever written down and I said, you know what, I'm going to do something, and I start declaring it and I start saying it out loud. The beautiful thing about it is that help shows up, clients show up, the manifestation shows up, and sometimes we have to be prepared for that next level. We have to be prepared to walk out our freedom. I need to go drink some water. I need to get off this live. But my heart is just so full of thinking of all the things that, the times when I wasn't free, that I was stuck in, people's opinions, when I was stuck in trying to make things perfect, when I was stuck in, feeling like paralyzed because of the enemy's lies. And I had to break free from all of that and tell myself, like, you know what, the best is yet to be. And I'm going to take action. And it's like, what is the one thing that I can do today that would take me in the direction of my dreams? Like, what is the one thing? If I only did one thing, because oftentimes we tell ourselves we don't have time, we don't have resources, we don't have the support. But the truth is that when we walk in alignment with the things that we want, and we say it with conviction, and we cast our cares on God, and we give him our goals, then, things start to show up. And when we can show up, we can go up. So, okay, every time I say I'm going to get off, I see more people coming on. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm not sure if you caught the beginning, but we are talking about walking out freedom. We're going to be creating prayer journals. We're going to be writing down the lies that we're telling ourselves and flipping it to a positive statement. We're also going to be asking ourselves, like, what area of our lives are we not walking free? What are the things that we are gifted in, but we're not taking action? What are the things that we fear? Like, what is your biggest fear? What is something that you've been saying? Maybe it's writing a book. Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's going after a goal, going back to school. Maybe it's, reaching out to someone. Just sometimes, like, the thing too is that, another story time. When I wrote a book, Once upon a time when I wrote my first book, it was after going through a divorce, and I found that in the process of the divorce that a lot of people were thinking I cheated on my ex. They were making all these assumptions because I was happy. And I said, you know, for so long I kept looking in the mirror and I didn't recognize the person in the mirror. So the one day I woke up and I was like, I don't know what's on the other side of this, but I know I can't stay here. This is not a place of growth. This is not a place of joy. Like, I feel like I'm in bondage and I need to be free. So going through that process, when people kept assuming that there was someone else, I was like, well, you know, what makes you happy? What brings you joy? And I realized that so many people were either, one, postponing their joy for a future date, saying that, you know what, once they were done with nursing school, they were going to be happy. Haha. Like, nursing. That's a whole other video. That's a whole other video talking about nurse life and people wanting to be a nurse and then realizing that there's so many politics and things that come along with that. But what I realized is that I couldn't stay here, and I realized that there was so many people that were either living in the past, well, living in the future and postponing their happiness, or there were a lot of people that were placing their happiness in their children, in their spouse, and saying that, you know what, as long as my kids are happy, then I'm happy. As long as my spouse is happy, then I'm happy. But what happens when that person betrays you? What happens when those kids don't turn out to the children that you want them to be, and they leave the home and forget that you exist? Like, you never know what can happen. So I feel that we are supposed to pour from an overflowing cup, and that self-care is essential. So when I wrote my book, I knew of a lot of people that were, you know, authors, quote unquote, wrote books but never published the books, that they were sitting on their ideas because of fear. So what I did was, to walk out my faith, I actually rented, like, I literally started writing a book and I rented a hall. I rented a physical location, paid my $350 for a book launch, for a book that wasn't even written yet. I was writing for like hours one time, and I looked up and a lot of it didn't save. My books did not get delivered in time, and there were so many things that happened along the way. But when I tell you that writing that book opened up so many doors, I was able to host workshops, master classes. I was invited to retreats. There was just so many things that happened on the other side of the obedience of writing that book. So it was just an amazing thing to see that, you know what, even though I felt ashamed, even though I felt like a failure, and seeing those words and not knowing, you know, were people going to criticize, were people going to, was there going to be backlash? I was like, I don't care, I'm telling my story. And the thing too is that a lot of times fear and bondage shows up as us blaming other people. And the way that I set myself free, and I tell my clients to set themselves free, is that whenever a situation happens and you want to move forward and walk out your freedom, you have to take away all of the power that you give to other people. We have to take accountability and say, what was the role that we played? We have to assess, like, what we would do better next time. And we have to create a plan. I'm going to actually create a video of what it looks like. I actually think I have a video that's launching tomorrow. Yes, I think I'm posting it tomorrow, but I just want to show quickly, if you are still on this live, what it looks like when we don't walk out our freedom. So let's see if I can draw this out, and then I'm going to get off for real. After this, I'm getting off, and I'm going to, like, today's a busy day. So let's imagine so I'm not the best drawer, but we're going to draw it like this. So let's imagine we are here. Okay, so this is where, let's imagine we were stuck in bondage. Then, it's probably backwards for you, but anyways, just follow along. I'm going somewhere. So imagine bondage is over here, and this is breakthrough bridge. Over here, you live the blessed life. We boss up. There's beauty. We can build. Okay? So, what I see a lot of people do is that if you're in bondage and you're able to break free, so the door is open, but now what do? And this is why it's so important to build, because what happens is if we go from bondage and now we're here, breakthrough bridge, I drew this on purpose as a slope, because if you look at any ramp, if you're not elevating and you're not taking steps forward, you're gonna fall back. And this is why oftentimes people who don't go after their goals and they're just getting by, they end up going back. They go in the past and they keep reliving the story of the bondage. Keep reliving the story of what broke them. Breakthrough bridge, just getting by. You have to keep going. You have to say what is on the other side of your freedom. What is on the other side? And this is why I always tell people I'm always building, I'm always going, because the enemy is busy and he wants to play with our mind. And he doesn't want us to walk out our faith. He wants us to stay defeated. He wants us to stay deflated. He wants us to feel like we don't have any divine ideas, divine gifts. That's why it is so important to walk out your freedom. Because if you don't build, eventually you're going to go back to that place of bondage. And with that, I am out. I've been on here for 33 minutes. I'm running on like 3 hours of sleep. I need to go and drink some water. And yeah, so thank you so much for tuning in. My heart is full. This has been very insightful. I'm happy I was able to, share. Hopefully I've said something that helps you to, one, write down, to break free from, what are you breaking free from? And also stop saying. Like one thing that I did say I was getting off, but one thing I tell people is that stop saying you're broke. Stop saying you're tired. Stop saying there's not enough time. Like, our words have power, and it has the power to help us to build, or have the power to keep us in bondage. To thinking that this is the life of like limited mindset. This is the life of lack. This is the life of abundance. So when we're building, we know that there's enough resources. Heaven isn't bankrupt, and we're able to keep on going, keep on growing, and live the blessed life. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm out.